I was thinking about Maya and illusion. And Sham once explained to us that Maya was the veil cast over everything, but it was also the power of focalization, or the power that enables the Supreme Consciousness to focus itself into a point of awareness or field of activity. And so we've been talking about involution of the consciousness into form and evolution of the consciousness through form into the supreme reality. We've been talking about that for a couple of weeks now. And I was thinking about this illusion being like an optical illusion. I'm sure this has occurred to you all when you look at those optical illusions, you know, the one of the vase in the middle, and then you keep looking at it, and then you see the two people on the side. That's an optical illusion. And optical illusions are about figure-ground relationships. And they present themselves in such a wonderful way that we can see both the figure and the ground, we can see it reverse itself in optical illusions. So they're so wonderful for that, because they have that profound meaning underneath the optical illusion is this realization that the figure and the ground can reverse themselves in our awareness. So thinking about the ground of all reality, the supreme ground, the supreme mystery is the ground. And there's all these figures that emerge from the ground, that being us as focalized points of consciousness and objects as focalized points of consciousness. And that power of Maya can do that for us. It can create a sense of separation out of the ground, out of the field. So we keep hearing that the mystery has this absolute nature, this ground of our being has an absolute existence and consciousness and bliss. We keep hearing this over and over again, and we keep intuiting that there's this mystery underneath everything that is absolute and far greater and unfathomable. So that the meaning of the Hebrew letter Aleph has to do with this mysterious principle, this absolutely ungraspable principle that over and over again incarnates and disincarnates, and incarnates and disincarnates. And at every moment it's as if it's omnipresent and also beyond. It's transcendent. It's immanent, it's transcendent. So it's mysterious, and we can't catch it. So that's why I'm always comparing Sham to Aleph, because you can never quite catch him, you know. Can't catch the song he's singing, and you can't catch the... and yet you keep incorporating the meaning, and you notice that your life starts improving so greatly that you know some mysterious principle is working all the time in our lives, and so we begin to pay homage to this mysterious grace that continues to work itself out in our lives, but we can't quite grasp it. And so it's as if this evolution of our consciousness has to do with the re-emergence of the ground in our awareness, so that the figures, the separate figures in our consciousness, begin to take on a more organic and interdependent lattice work. We know that as we're evolving, we still realize that we're separate in some sense. We have a sense of being a monad, a separate consciousness. But we also begin, as we grow and evolve, to feel like that there's this enormous organic being that we all are part of. So as we evolve, this ground of organic being and inorganic being and consciousness begins to come forward in our awareness.
As it comes forward in your awareness.
So when the ground is involving it, when the consciousness in the ground is involving itself more in coarser and coarser layers of manifestation, then the consciousness becomes more and more restricted. And then the Kabbalah says there's a purpose of that restriction of consciousness into our individual identities. And we have some kind of work to do. We have something to do as embodied. We have some kind of work to do. But at the same time, that very same ground of consciousness is always breaking its restraints and evolving us out of constriction. So we have set ourselves up in a way to always break our constraints and evolve. And it's set up from the original point of Aleph, from the mystery. So this odd paradox that we're in has to do with this energy and this consciousness creating containers for itself, which then it begins to dissolve and release itself from. And that has to do with us being here in this life. So no matter what kind of container of consciousness we're in, whether we think we're somebody, this or that person, and we have this or that in our world, we can be sure that that principle of Aleph is going to break out of those boundaries and continue to want to expand inside of us. So we have this interesting dance that we're doing. And the Tree of Life, of course, brings everything down to this physical level. And it says that the physical level is this resplendent intelligence because that supreme consciousness is has some kind of field of work which is glorious. Yet at the same time, when that reaches fruition, we can be sure that those boundaries of that container are going to get dissolved. And of course, the boundary of the container of the physical life, when that dissolves, that's death. But we have many little deaths all along the way, and the principle of Aleph is a pulsation of life and death continually. And the real ground of our being has to do with this wonderful and awful mystery that we all participate in. And the real ground of our connectedness has to do with that same mystery, because we all, no matter what our consciousness is doing, we all come up against that sense of the ground where we have a feeling of indeterminacy in our life. So it's not an easy place to come up against and realize that the boundaries that we've created for ourselves of our identity or our life are dissolving all the time so that we can have that consciousness expand inside of us. So this is a real trick. And it's as if, that in the Tree of Life there's this abyss between the divine mind and the divine life and the level of the human being. There's that abyss right there where knowledge is. I don't know if you can see it from where you are. But this abyss is sort of this mysterious barrier that we come up against in our human life, where we suddenly realize we have no idea what's really going on. We come up against this in our self-identity. When our self-identity begins to dissolve, we thought we were a psychologist, but no, that's not all we were, is it? Or we thought we were a mother, or we thought we were a professional or a bureaucrat or whatever we thought we were. And we come up against this place where all that begins to dissolve. So I guess the question I'm leading to is, how do you bridge the abyss? And I know that there are many paths of knowledge, and in a practical way, Freud was right, that the meaning of life has to do with love and work. So in a practical way, we do our work, and if we go on doing work in an unselfish way, as karma yoga would tell us, we go on doing our work without expecting results and without going through the agony of success or failure, or trying not to dwell on success or failure. That's karma yoga. You just do your work selflessly. And that is a purification that gets rid of some of that dullness of the human mind and helps us begin to bridge the mystery. The other bridge that comes, well, let me say a few more words about our work. It's as if whatever our work is, whatever we are drawn to doing, as long as it's within the Dharma, it will lead us to the divine. So if we're a dancer, we love sound and movement. And the sound and movement are of the divine. If we love to work with our hands, then we are drawn towards some appreciation of something working in us, forming. And we're drawn to that sense of transformation that's again rooted in the divine. If we're a counselor, we're drawn to healing, and we're drawn to transformation. Transformation's rooted in the divine. So no matter what work we're doing, it gives us a way to contemplate a root of the divine, and that's what draws us into expanding and breaking those constrictions. But the other very important aspect of bridging the divine has to do with devotion and love. And the principle of the perpetual lover is one that continually loves the mysterious supreme, knowing that it's forever out of reach, in a way. So how do you reach something unreachable? Your heart opens up and continues to open up, and then instead of reaching it, it begins to fill you up. We're not doing anything except loving and allowing our love to be purified over and over again until that calling of our heart begins to allow more room in our heart to be filled up with that love which is of the divine nature. So if we think of God as the beloved, it's as if we have this very interesting relationship with a mysterious, indeterminate something that is nothing. And what do you do when you don't understand something and you still love it? Then it begins to come to you, even though you don't grasp it. So the purification of love has to do with allowing that to fill us up without making demands and grasping from it. And that's such a immaculate, mysterious path. It ultimately begins with self-love. And we begin to take care of ourselves, and we begin to, as if we're dialoguing with ourselves. We don't like our life in certain ways, and we get frustrated, and we have all these emotional reactions. But if we dedicate that to an unfathomable mystery and we call upon it, then it begins to purify and create what it wants in us. So the principle of the perpetual lover is as if you love your life itself, even though you don't really understand it. And that's so much to do with what love is, because we love and we don't really understand. We love each other, we don't really understand each other. And somehow that love continues to create this connection, and through loving ourselves and our relationships, ourselves being difficult to love at times, other people being difficult to love, life itself being difficult to love, all of this works upon us in a certain way, as long as we continue to allow it to help us grow beyond our limitations. And that's what love can do, is continue to expand us beyond our limitations, because love is limitless. We don't know where it ends. It's part of the whole mystery. The love of the Bodhisattva is limitless. The Bodhisattva continues to return to earth until every single sentient being has reached enlightenment.